to the First Universalist Church of Yarmouth. It's really hard not to sway up here. My name is Joanna Landsman. I'm the president of your board of trustees. I'm so happy to be greeting you again this morning, live from our sanctuary. I can feel you with me, with us, and it feels really good, so welcome. At First Universalist, our mission is to explore our faith, embrace this community, and to engage the world as spiritual seekers. Won't you take those words to heart? Before our service begins this morning, I have two invitations for you. First, are you looking for just a small way to participate maybe more personally in the service by helping to make the altar table and the chancel area beautiful for each of our live stream services? Maybe that means contributing flowers or natural objects from nature, a little redundant there. If you're interested, please just email or call me and we'll figure it out together. Second, our annual meeting is today, beginning at 11:45. Wait, what? Is it June? Oh, I remember, we're in the middle of a pandemic. And everything is topsy-turvy, but seriously, it is today. And we want you, we need you to join us in this important expression of our UU democracy. Along with a variety of updates, we'll be voting to approve the budget, and there's a special surprise at the end. So after today's service, take a quick break, grab some coffee or tea, and then a few minutes before 11:45, click the Zoom meeting link that's in the email you received this morning. Expect the meeting to last about 45 minutes and consider that it will be time well spent. But for now, take a deep breath and settle in to this sacred space that we share together. Reverend Hillary will now lead us into our worship.
Good morning. How are you? It's good to be with you. The sun is poking through the fog outside. Perhaps it's a metaphor. My friends, no matter who you are, no matter where you're from, no matter what you've done or who you love, no matter if you're under the weather or over the world, no matter if you're ahead of the curve or just right here, right now, you are welcome here. And I'm glad you're here. So, in conversation with many of you lately, I know that you're carrying around a lot of uncertainty, a lot of anxiety, and even despair. Yeah, over the state of the world. Even Arwen feels it. And as you all keep reminding me, there is no sign of any of this letting up anytime soon. And so, with these feelings and reminders in mind today on Yom Kippur, a high holy day that in my view requires great spiritual and emotional stamina, I want to talk with you all this morning about spiritual resilience. Alongside voting, showing up when we say we're going to show up, and not being a jerk all the time, I think the most important work right now, the most important work of our lives, perhaps, is the work of strengthening our spirits. What does this mean, strengthening our spirits? Well, it means a lot of things, and we'll get into some of it today. And I do want to add that this is not just a one-off service on spiritual resilience. This is something we will continue to discuss in the weeks, months, years ahead. To start, though, Building spiritual resilience means being brave. And in light of this fact, our opening reading this morning is a poem by activist, healer, and as she puts it, justice doula, Mickey Scott Bay Jones. Her poem is entitled Invitation to Brave Space. Invitation to brave space. Together, we will create brave space. Because there is no such thing as a safe space. We exist in the real world. We all carry scars and we all have caused wounds in this space. In this space, we seek to turn down the volume of the outside world. We amplify voices that fight to be heard elsewhere. We call each other to move with truth and love. We have the right to start somewhere and continue to grow. We have the responsibility to examine what we think we know. We will not be perfect. This space will not be perfect. It will not always be what we wish it to be, but it will be our brave space together, and we will create it side by side. Good morning, my brave friends. Here we are, another day of our lives. The sun is poking through the fog outside. To light our way through this day, I now light our chalice in peace and friendship, and the strength, the hope, and the love we need to create and sustain peace and friendship.
Our worship service has begun, and won't you join me in listening and perhaps singing along to our opening hymn, number 131, Love Will Guide Us.
Will he go where
Thanks, Sam. It's one of my favorites. Our reading this morning is an excerpt from Lama Rod Owen's latest book, Love and Rage. Lama Rod is a Buddhist teacher and a social justice warrior. Love and Rage, his latest publication, is a book about how we can metabolize our anger and how then we can harness it for the cause of transformative justice. Some real spiritual resilience stuff. He writes, "We have to understand at some point that we must develop an attitude of needing to love everything, especially what is unlovable. Everything has to be loved if you're interested in getting free. I'm talking about free from duality. I'm talking about freedom from binary thinking. I'm talking about freedom from always being triggered. I'm talking about freedom from the ways in which I'm deeply attached to ego. Freedom from always performing for other people. Freedom from always living outside of my body. That kind of freedom. Coming back into wholeness. Coming back into privileging what I need. I'm not saying that my needs are better than those of other people, but rather that my needs deserve to be in consideration as I'm considering other people's needs. If we don't have that spaciousness, if we're not taking care of our hurt, then we're going to be very limited in the choices we have to make." We now come to a time in our service that we set aside for silent prayer and contemplation. As these Sunday services are recorded, we will not be sharing our joys and sorrows during them this fall. If you have a joy, sorrow, or concern you'd like to share with the community, please join us for our Wednesday Vespers services at 7 p.m. when we have a regular sharing time. And please also know that I'm here. I'm here to listen and hold your joys and sorrows. So please don't hesitate to reach out. Let me know how you are. And let me know if you'd like to talk. In a moment, we'll enter into a time of quiet. This is a time to perhaps reflect on the events of the past week, look forward to what may come in the days ahead, or simply be here now, in this moment, and all that it offers us in sensation and emotion. As we hold this time of quiet, I'll light 3 candles. The first for our sorrows, the second for our joys, and the third for this precious, unique moment that we share right now. So with that, please, I invite you to relax into your body. Take a deep, refreshing breath and enter in to this time of prayer and quiet. for all that can be expressed, for all we hold inside, for all we simply do not have the words to explain. We hear you, we hold you, and we wish you continued joy, immediate comfort, a path forward, and the seeds of peace. Amen. I now invite Marge Titcomb, Chair of our Faith in Action Council and our church treasurer, forward to share our offering.
This month, in honor of our first principle, recognizing the inherent worth and dignity of every person, we are sharing half of our offering with Maine Wabanaki Reach. They provide food and supplies to the 5 Wabanaki community food pantries through their Grandmother's Love Initiative. And this is based on the values that the grandmothers teach, that love is sacred and to always help one another. One thing that Indigenous people have is collective resilience and a call to respond during crises. They are grateful for all who respond to this call. You are invited to make your offering using the button in the order of service. You'll notice that we've updated our electronic giving possibilities on a new platform called Give Butter. But just so you know, as with any credit card transactions with profit or nonprofit entities, including PayPal and Venmo, there are, of course, charges. With Give Butter, you have the option of picking up the charges or let your credit card company take it out of your donation so that church picks up the tab. Give Butter itself is free, but you are also invited to leave a tip at your option. And as always, to avoid fees, you may drop a check in the mail or use your bank's free bill pay feature. However you choose to contribute is greatly appreciated. While considering your offering, enjoy today's musical offering by Sam Chandler.
so great to work with a great musician, you know? It's great. I wish you all were here. I'm going to just say it I think I'm going to say it every week. It's so strange to preach and listen to beautiful music in a sanctuary that has 4 wonderful people in it, but just 4 wonderful people in it. Not all of you. In time. Okay. So, we have to understand that at some point, we have to develop an attitude of loving everything, especially what is unlovable. Love and Rage, Lama Rod Owen's most recent publication, came out in July. We pre-ordered it, and I have been struggling with it since the day it arrived in the mail. Lama Rod Owens, or Lama Rod, as most students call him, is an authorized Buddhist teacher in the Tibetan Kagyu tradition, and he's considered one of the most important voices in Buddhism today. To upset this distinguished status, or in my view, totally enhance it, Lama Rod describes himself as a Black, queer, cisgender, male-identified, fat, mixed-class, Buddhist yogic, trash-talking Southerner. If you're not familiar with Lama Rod, do check him out. We are blessed to share this incarnation with him. The premise of Love and Rage is simple. We must learn to love our pain in order to set it free. So simple, right? We must learn to love our pain in order to set it free. Oof. Okay, let's break it down. So, Lama Rod's definition of pain is complicated. It's multi-layered. Our pain is our despair, our grief, our disappointment, our shame, all that uncomfortable stuff. And all these pains, he writes, stem from our wounds. And our wounds are those root places of hurt in our lives. They're the traumas we've incurred and the traumas we've perpetrated. As Lama Rod is a justice activist, Love and Rage is a book about how he came to be in relationship with the anger and the pain that stems from the wounds that he, his community, and his ancestors have incurred from systems of racism, misogyny, and homophobia throughout the history of our country. As I read Love and Rage, I find that yes, I have wounds from those oppressive systems too, but I also have wounds from my complicity in those systems. It's ugly, uncomfortable stuff. No wonder I just stay with my pain most of the time. My despair, my fear, my numbness. I don't want to get into that deeper stuff. Most of the time, I actually just stick with my anger and resist going anywhere deep. Love and Rage teaches that all of our anger arises from the pain we feel from our wounds. Anger isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just a wild thing, and it needs space to be felt and used in productive ways. To Lama Rod, anger is an indicator that something is off. Anger is pointing us to a place where we hurt. He describes anger as a precious and beautiful thing. When we don't notice our anger, or when we just stay with our anger, we don't feel our pain. And when we don't feel our pain, we never recognize our wounds, and our anger just throws tantrums and causes us to react in erratic, oppressive, and depressive ways that just cause more suffering. Until we can resist the urge to let our anger be the antidote to our pain, we're going to suffer. And we're going to cause others to suffer, and all the stuff that's inflaming our wound is just going to get worse. As a Mainer, I feel a useful metaphor to explain Lama Rod's concept of anger and pain and wounds is to consider the poison ivy rash. It itches so bad, right? All we want to do is scratch it. But then we scratch it, and it just gets worse and itchier, and it really ruins our week. It can ruin our months. It can ruin our summer. What if, instead of immediately scratching our poison ivy rash like a maniac, we pause, notice the itch, and listen to it? Oh, it's telling us, hey, we've got a situation going on here. We need some love and care. We need some calamine lotion. And maybe just a little scratch. Sure, but be careful with the scratching. Actually, what's the goal of the scratching right now? Is it helpful to the cause of healing? The scratching is our anger. The itch is our pain. And both point to the poison ivy, our wound. Sure, getting in touch with our feelings and delineating what's what, that's tricky stuff. But it's not too hard to wrap our brains around. It's well understood at this point that misdirected anger can lead to depression, violence, addiction, fear, oppression of others, all sorts of awful stuff. And with teachers out there like Brené Brown and mindfulness gone mainstream and rows of books and blogs on self-care, many of us are actively working on noticing our feelings, feeling our feelings, and calming down as best we can so we can function through this brutal era of history, or just so we can get through a Monday morning. But here's where Lama Rod complicates it all. He doesn't offer a remedy to our pain. From what I gather in Love and Rage, Lama Rod is pretty clear that our pain and all those uncomfortable layers, they're always going to be here. We must learn to love our pain to set it free, he writes. Not learn to love our pain so we're free of it. Our wounds are part of us. We're gonna have poison ivy forever. Suffering exists. But we can learn to live in a way that doesn't constantly inflame our wounds and the wounds of others. We must learn to love our pain to set it free. So, what does setting our pain free mean? Well, it means giving it some space. Rather than noticing it and getting mad, or noticing it and saying hello and asking it to go away now, setting our pain free means going in, feeling it, and saying, hey, I love you. I guess we're in this together, huh? So, what's up with you today? We must learn to love even our broken hearts, writes Lama Rod. That doesn't mean that we celebrate or are happy with the experience of discomfort. We must learn to love our pain to set it free. I have had to learn to invite my broken heart to dine with me at my table. First you. Lately, during our talks of despair, yours, mine, I often hear one of these 3 statements. I can't wait till things get back to normal. The election cannot get here fast enough. And I don't want to think about it anymore. Does anyone notice a theme in these statements? I notice several themes. I hear pain and discomfort. I hear anger. I hear impatience and avoidance. And I will say, I don't hear anyone inviting their despair to dinner. And I just want to add here that though I'm doing the ministerial thing and trying to be conscious of these statements and not say them to you, please know that I do get home from church, eat a chocolate bar, and shout these words every day, multiple times. And so, this is where that spiritual resilience piece comes in. That need for that brave and perfect space. That brave and perfect space that we create together. This is where we have to develop an attitude of needing to love everything, especially what's unlovable. Because, my friends, and I'm going to invite a little despair up to the pulpit with me right now, our wound is not going anywhere. No matter if a normalcy is ever achieved, no matter who wins the election, no matter what you can and cannot handle thinking about, your pain and the pain rampant in our country is going to be here. A COVID vaccine, Joe Biden, and the end of doom scrolling are not going to make everything great again. And do not get me wrong here, this is not a call to apathy. We must eradicate this virus. We must vote. We must be careful how much negativity we take in for our well-being and for the well-being of many, many people in situations far more dire than ours. But we also have to acknowledge our pain. Pain is a tool. It's an opportunity for healing, not a reason for despair. We have to love it. It's a piece of us. Pain is part of your one wild and precious life. Confront this truth, set it free. The great activism needed today, Lama Rod writes, entails bridging our personal grieving with the grieving of our communities. Taking care of our pain, he continues, softens our hurt as we do the work of empathizing with ourselves. Empathizing with ourselves makes it easier to empathize with others. And this empathy, he concludes, is the root of the love and compassion that will begin to disrupt the systems that create harm. Simple, right? Remember last week when I told RBG that she needed to worry about us because we got this? And now this week I'm up here yammering on about how you're going to have poison ivy forever, but you need to love every single thing you encounter. Aren't you glad you called me as your minister? We're having so much fun this fall. It's gonna be great. But seriously, love everything. Love everything. Where to start with that? Well, to quote that pithy Buddhist slogan, start where you are. When issued the task of loving everything, especially that which is unlovable, I feel it's best to what you love. Love what's easy to love and love the hell out of it. Just love it. Say to it, or to him, or to her, or them, or whatever pronoun this being or object that you love prefers or deserves. Say, I love you. Go through your days looking for the beings and the things you love, and when you find them, love them. And when you're in that place of loving what you love and looking for all the things that you love, notice what you don't love. And get curious why you don't love it. Why does your love hit a boundary in that place? What feeling does it rub up against? If that unlovable thing or being makes you angry, pause and notice what painful spot your precious, beautiful anger is directing your attention toward. Give that pain some space. And feel that part of yourself. Acknowledge its existence. And then, return to the moment at hand and what there is to love in it. And carry on. The point of this work is to know who we are beyond our anger and pain. When we know what our wounds are, we know when we are able to act and be of collective use. We know what matters to us and to our well-being. And we also know when we need to sit something out, when we must rest, seek help, therapy, care for ourselves. Avoiding our wounds will only lead to burnout, despair, and anger. An anger that only inflames our pain and the pain of others. It's good to know who we are. It's good to remember what we love. It's good to remember that we are wounded. Naturally, by practicing this spiritual work, we begin to understand that others have love and wounds too. The world was made for them, and they're only dust and ashes, just like us. We're all alive, working through our pain, seeking out what we love, trying to be of use. It's not simple. I'm just going to say it, it is not simple at all. It is far more complicated than we can imagine. But slowly, we will work on building up our spiritual resilience to hold it all. Be gentle with yourselves. The world is rough out there. You're not alone in this necessary work. I am walking right alongside you in all of it. Loving things, not loving things, and wondering why. Together with our broken hearts, endlessly overflowing with love and precious, beautiful anger, we can create a brave space. A space that disrupts the system that creates harm. We've got this. Start where you are. Get to know your love. Get to know your wound. Practice makes power. Let's create a brave space. Let it be so. Amen. Thanks, Sharon. Our closing hymn is number 349. 48, Guide My Feet. Do sing along at home if you like. Thanks, Sam. Thank you, tech crew, Pete, Gwen, and Kai, and Arwen. Thank you, Joanna. And thank you, Marge. And thank you. It's good to be with you today. We close with a benediction, something to carry in our hearts and minds as we go on with our day, hopefully to the annual meeting in a few minutes. May all beings be free of suffering and the causes of suffering. May we all experience profound joy and the causes of profound joy. May we all honor our precious, beautiful anger. May we all feel our hurts. May we know our wounds. And may we see love everywhere we go. My friends, go in peace. I'll see you soon.